According to Dr. Judith Joseph, those with chronic sleep issues are at a much higher risk for a multitude of physical health problems. So it's important to understand when trouble falling asleep actually becomes a disorder. You'll learn that and more in this episode. Dr. Joseph, what is a sleep disorder?
That's a good question. Many of us have experienced poor sleep at some point in our lives, but a sleep disorder comes about when the sleep becomes a persistent problem to the point where it impairs your ability to function. And so if you are persistently not getting enough sleep and you're falling asleep on the job, or you're not getting things done, or you're just too fatigued to even have fun socially or get out there and do your normal activities, that by definition is a sleep disorder. Now there are about over 80 sleep disorders out there.
All right, and we'll go through each one of them one by one. I'm kidding. We don't need to go through 80. Are you kidding? All right, so there's 80 of them. That's a lot.
But the most common is insomnia. So insomnia occurs when there's a problem falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up too early. And it can be pretty persistent in people who travel a lot, who have jet lag, because their inner clocks can't regulate. However, insomnia is very common with a lot of mental health conditions like depression. About half of teens with depression suffer from insomnia. That's
where
a
they
lot.
can't sleep.
Where they cannot sleep, where they have difficulty falling asleep or waking up too early or waking up in the middle of the night.
But
and
with depression, you can also oversleep, correct?
Correct.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
If I'm in the midst of my depression, I'll sleep 18 hours and not even blink.
And you're not necessarily getting restful sleep.
Yeah. Okay, so with all of these sleep disorders, this does not include the person who goes, yeah, it takes me like 45 minutes to fall asleep at night. That's not a sleep disorder. No, okay. What is the difference between a sleep disorder and just being sleep deprived?
So when you're in a constant state of not getting sleep, a constant state of insomnia, eventually you develop sleep deprivation, where your brain doesn't fully recover because it's always charged. When you sleep, you're supposed to pretty much shut down, not entirely, because then you wouldn't live, but you're supposed to down-regulate your systems. You're supposed to conserve energy. However, if you have persistent insomnia, your brain does not recuperate. So it goes into a state of constant exhaustion, and then you're sleep deprived. And that's when all of these attentional issues occur, and the lack of ability to finish your work, and this decrease in function. So because your brain needs that restorative period, if it doesn't get it, then you're not functioning at full capacity.
But why then, if the brain is sleep deprived, why wouldn't it sleep?
That's a good question. So when your brain is on overdrive, it sends chemicals to the rest of your body. The adrenaline surges in your body go up. So that puts your body into a constant state of fight or flight. Instead of being rested, your body thinks that you're up and ready to go and combat something.
So your brain is going, oh my gosh, we're not getting enough sleep. This is really bad. Instead of going, hey, we're not getting enough sleep, we should calm down so we can get sleep.
Correct.
Well, I wish our brain would get it together here. That'd be a lot easier. Now, you mentioned during the break that it was a complicated term, so you'll have to remind me, but people can actually get sleep deprived or suffer from a sleep disorder and then get very hyper from the lack of sleep. Talk about that.
It's not typically what you see, but you do see this with bipolar disorder. People who don't get sleep have a paradoxical or opposite reaction to what you would expect. So rather than being fatigued and sluggish and dulled and slower, they get hyperactive and irritable and hyper-aroused.
And what is that called?
A paradoxical reaction.
Paradoxical reaction.
So it's the opposite of what you expect to occur.
Now, I'm a big napper. I'm pro napper. I'm pro naps. Ariana Huffington is pro naps, so I'm pro Ariana Huffington. I feel better even if I can sleep for 20 minutes, but if I sleep for 2 hours, I also feel better. Many people, though, say if they take a nap, they're more tired after a nap. What's going on with that?
Everyone has their own inner biological clock, and not everyone is made the same. So there are some people who do require naps because their sleep architecture is different inherently. For example, some people can't sleep throughout the night if they take a nap during the day, but other people need that afternoon nap, and then they may sleep a longer period at night. So because everyone is different, it's really important to understand what your inner circadian rhythm is.
Is it bad? I don't, but would it be bad if I took a nap every day?
No, it's not.
So I'm not lazy or
No.
I don't need to get it together or anything like that?
No. In fact, some studies show that when you took away all light stimulus and you put people in like a cave-like setting, there were some people who actually functioned better when they napped during the day and stayed up at night. So because everyone is unique and different, you've got to figure out what works for you.
You mentioned insomnia. We mentioned the paradoxical reaction to sleep deprivation. Are there any notable other sleep disorders that you think our viewers should know about?
I think that one of the things that I commonly see in my pediatric practice is sleep apnea. That's something you think of an older person having, someone who's a bit heavier set. However, pediatric patients can have enlarged tonsils that get in the way of their breathing at night. And so they may appear drowsy or sleepy at school. They may appear to be inattentive. And some teachers will even say, oh, I think they have ADHD, when it turns out they have sleep apnea.
And so as a parent, how would you go about finding out if your child has sleep apnea?
You got to ask questions. And that's to the teachers.
To the teachers,
okay.
Are
they falling asleep in every period? Is it just one period? And you've got to talk to your kids. What's happening at night? Because you look really tired. You have the shiners under your eyes. Are you having a hard time falling asleep? Do you remember waking up at night? You can even go into the bedroom and listen, because sleep apnea, one of the hallmarks is snoring. And kids with really big tonsils make a lot of noise when they sleep.
Got it. What types of demographics or segments of the population suffer from sleep disorders the most?
So typically sleep disorders happen in people who are older, 65 and older, and that has to do with their physical health. So people who have hypertension, diabetes, overweight, people who are on multiple medications that can cause sleep problems tend to have more problems with sleep. However, in my practice, I would say of the children I treat, about 70% of them report sleep problems.
Out of the children you treat?
Correct, 70%. Yeah.
Now, do they have comorbid mental health disorders?
Well, they're not seeing me for fun.
Right. They're just like, could I just pay you to hang out for a little bit? That's what we do, right?
Right. And then, so like I mentioned earlier, about half of teens with depression report sleep problems. And so kids with developmental delays and psychological problems tend to report sleep, and about 70% of them do.
So this is a great indicator for individuals to recognize in themselves and for parents to seek out in their children, because if 70% of people who have a mental health condition like depression or anxiety are also suffering in their sleep, it could be, or likely is, that the sleep is causing or making these mental health conditions worse.
Absolutely.
So if we fix the sleep, we'll improve our overall life.
Correct.
That's big. So what do you tell these people who have these sleep disorders to do?
So I think that it's empowering when they feel like they can track things and understand things better, because I'm not with them in their bedroom at night.
Right.
So they're the ones that I rely on. And I encourage parents and kids to keep a sleep diary. That way they track how many hours of sleep they're getting every night, what helps them to relax at nighttime, what makes them anxious. And also, it just helps me to know if my treatment is working, because based on the changes in the sleep diary report, I know if a method is helping or not.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned in our introduction episode, sleep and anxiety, or sleep disorders and anxiety, are often correlated. So in our next episode, we're going to explain what anxiety is and how it can cause a sleep disorder with Dr. Joseph.